Welcome back to this edition of our show From Logo to Impact. Now, in the 90s, if you thought of breakfast food, really, Kellogg's didn't even figure in the larger scheme of things because our cultural habits were so different. But then slowly things have started to change. And look at where we are. Right now, I'm talking to Harpreet Singh Tib. He is Marketing Director at Kelloggs India and South Asia. Great to have you with us, Harpreet. You might remember that time, considering that you weren't part of the company back then. You've spent long years at HUL. But those were trying times for Kellogg's. It took a while for them to really understand this market, didn't it?
So I think that's true. Kellogg's trying to change breakfast habits. And if you really want to do any habit change in this country, be it breakfast food or be it even simple categories like beauty, it takes a long time. And I think the big sign is that the company's invested here for such a long time just reflects the confidence that we have in our journey so far.
Right.
And the great expectations we have from this business, very honestly.
The learnings must have been quite unique. That's what I was trying to get at, because, to understand an Indian market from a global perspective, to come in, and you understand geographies as well, considering that you're looking at several countries within South Asia, you understand the local nuances, and localization of a product becomes very important to drive perception. That game is going to be always very difficult and challenging. How do you see it?
No, absolutely. I think, that's the reason if you see in 2013, we crafted a new campaign. It was called Kellogg's Anaj Ka Nashta Aapki Solid Shuruaat.
Right.
For a long time when he told people breakfast cereals, they really didn't understand the word cereals.
Right.
Yeah, people in fact actually confuse cereals with the word S-E-R-I-L, which is your cereals on the television networks,
yes,
right?
what you sit back and watch.
Absolutely. So we said, hey, listen, we need to find the cultural nuances, the cultural hook. And that's when he hit upon this entire thing called Anaj.
How much did the entire health drive that this country went on, and it seems to be growing, how much has that helped the cause of Kellogg's?
For me, I think the larger chunk is the urbanization that is driving in the economy today. With new opportunities coming up, we're seeing people leading very, very hectic lifestyles. You've got people leading, husband, wives working today. So the whole concept of, the wife sitting at home and the mother looking after the families changed dramatically.
Right.
Today, I think everyone's out there, a lot of opportunities for everyone in the family to do well. And because of this change in lifestyle and high expectation, aspiration that people have, you're finding people actually making habit changes.
Right.
So in the morning, it's a time crunch, right? You really don't have time today to cook breakfast for every single member of the family.
Sure.
And that's why you're looking for nice, convenient, nutritious food. And that's exactly where Kellogg breakfast cereals comes in.
Correct.
And that's the reason, you're actually finding that as a big driver. The urbanization, the availability of new opportunities, people wanting to be fit is what is driving perhaps this entire thing for us. And
how is that linked now to your master brand campaign, the one that you've recently launched, Harpreet, because I'm seeing it's called Bade Sapnon Ki Sahi Shuruaat.
Right.
So this is first in a long time, right? A master brand campaign. You did that a long time ago, but now you're coming back with this. And you've got badminton player Saina Nehwal involved as well. So, I mean, what is the focus over here? What are you trying to drive?
So I think, this country today, if you go to see, we keep talking India shining. It's the fastest growing economy, right, at the moment. So as much as, we might say that the growth rates have slowed down, it's yet among the fastest. And you can see the amount of confidence you're seeing around the people in India, it's not funny. You find a lot of people having great aspirations. You can look at the next billion-dollar ventures coming out of India.
Right.
And very clearly, India is dreaming big. Yeah, if you speak to a youngster today, he really wants to aim for the moon. And, at the end of the day, if you really have these kind of dreams that you want to achieve, you need to make sure you have a right start and a solid start.
Sure.
Yeah, and our belief at Kellogg's is that breakfast, right, is the most important meal of the day, and it provides you with the right start, which helps you actually fuel your day and also aim and achieve your dreams. And that's exactly where this master brand campaign is all about. So this master brand campaign, which is Bade Sapnon Ki Sahi Shuruaat or hashtag Feeding Dreams, is actually a first master brand campaign that is being, going on
it's the absolute first. You've never had a master brand campaign.
On television.
On television, right.
That's right.
You earlier had one which was in print.
That's right. 2 years back.
Explain to me the shift, this media mix that we are seeing change as far as Kellogg's is concerned.
Right.
What's really driving it? Is it a lot to do with the way how digital is moving and how that is perhaps changing the game, as it were, the media mix?
So if you ask me very honestly, right, I think 2 years back when we started the whole journey, we used print because we actually had to educate people and demystify that our food is made of grains. Yeah. Now we're moving to step 2, which is about telling a larger bunch of people about how breakfast plays an important role in achieving your dreams. So it's very interesting, right? When we did a survey called the Indian Breakfast Habit Study, we realized that 25% of people don't have breakfast. Yeah, close to 3/4 of the people actually skim breakfast, which means they actually have a cup of tea or a glass of milk with just biscuits.
Right.
And now that's not going to be nutritionally adequate breakfast for you. And if you're really aiming big, you need to make sure that your breakfast is nutritionally adequate. You have a balanced breakfast. And that's the genesis of this whole campaign called Bade Sapno Ki Sahi Shuruaat, #Feeding Dreams for us, very, very honestly.
Right.
And that's the reason we've selected television. In terms of our media mix, television has always been a core part of our spends. But over the last few years, what we've done is we've shifted a large amount of our money onto digital. So today, digital, we spend close to around about 15% of our money is on digital.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and I think that's reflecting the way the consumers are changing.
Right.
I think the kind of busy lives that we lead and the multiple screens we all play with, right?
So when you talk about digital also, I want to understand, Harpreet, how are you playing that field? Because there's social media to talk about. How are you going about it?
So I think very interesting. For me, I think the rules of marketing are going to remain the same. And therefore, we keep hearing a lot about digital marketing. I think digital marketing started almost like a standalone new medium and channel of communication. For me, I think it's all about marketing in a digital world. Right? So in the past, if I had marketing, I had to talk about leveraging television, print, radio, outdoor. It's now about saying, listen, the consumer's out there in a digital world, how do I market to him?
Right.
So I think that's a fundamental premise.
In a consolidated way.
Absolutely right. So that's the first premise that we all operate at Kellogg's.
Sure.
Second is very, very clearly saying, how do I make sure I make use of the offline, online media really well? So I give you share an example of a new campaign we broke out this year. It's called Kelogg Wale Gupta Ji Ki Family campaign.
Right.
Yeah, very interesting campaign. It didn't go on television, right? But if you were on digital, you couldn't have missed this campaign.
Right.
Yeah, because we got 11 million views. It's become the third largest food channel in terms of digital online space. It's the #1 breakfast food channel right now in India.
Right.
And it's all about understanding the consumer need, right? So a lot of Indian consumers are seeking, information about recipes. And if you ask Google, which is the most searched after word on digital, it is recipe.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, food is huge. In the
Correct.
digital space, there's no doubt about it.
So what we did is we actually created 100 videos and we told people 100 different ways in which you can have Kellogg breakfast cereals.
Right, okay.
And we play that on digital.
Right.
And we made these 2.5 sitcoms. Right? So if I earlier on, let's say, made a film on television, I now made a sitcom because that's what the digital consumer loves.
Right.
Yeah, so I made 100 sitcoms, 2.5 minutes each.
Right.
And they actually talk about the story of a family which is making different kind of breakfast to deal with the trials and tribulations every morning.
So there's food, there is comedy as well, and you're selling a brand.
Absolutely right. And that's exactly what we're doing in terms of digital marketing. So the campaign's really worked extremely well for us.
Sure.
And I guess that's the kind of stuff we're looking at doing.
Right.
We've also tied up with Mindshare and we set up something called the Kellogg Loop Room with them, where we actually do a lot of social media tracking.
Right.
And on a real-time basis, we pick up conversations and then create campaigns online to leverage those topical topics that are going around at the moment.
Right now, the big fear with everything that's going on with Nestle, etc., is top of mind, really. And I'm sure those what's happening with the strength of FSSAI as a body and what we're seeing in terms of what's already happened and what's likely to happen in the future. What's the thought process at a Kellogg's?
So, I don't think I can comment too much about FSSAI and Nestle per se, but I think as far as Kellogg goes, right, I think we comply with all the strict regulations that are there in the country. And I think in terms of the quality of our food, we've got stringent quality measures internally.
Right.
And we make sure that everything that goes out in the marketplace actually complies with our internal regulations, strict guidelines, and also complies with all the regulations in the country.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the way we play it at Kellogg's.
Right. Competition is biting at your heels, right? It is a fiercely competitive space. You're looking at smaller brands, bigger brands, all PepsiCos of the world, the Buggeries of the world. They're all trying to get a piece of that bowl of cereal.
I think that's very good, right? When you have more competition, I always believe it's good for the business.
We all say that, but how did that make your marketing strategy different?
Very, very interestingly, right? So as per Nielsen over the last 2.5, 3 years, we've actually grown our shares every year.
Right.
Yeah, so in spite of people coming in, snapping at our heels, or trying different kind of stuff, I think we've been very, very clearly focused in terms of connecting with the consumers and serving them the right relevant mixes.
Right.
And that's the reason we've actually grown our shares over the last 2.5, 3 years.
Right.
Right, and you can see our shares are around about 64%. And to keep growing shares year on year on that kind of a base itself reflects the kind of work we're doing and the way we're connecting with the consumer, the relevant propositions.
Good luck with that, Harpreet. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Great, thank you so much for having us here.